back on sports, and before I get started on, the usual things that we talk about and get angry about, yell, or, give you facts and all that, I'm sure you already see it in the header. And I want to talk about this due to the fact that I want to talk about Philly's great, legendary Philly, Darren Daulton. For those who know, he has passed on not too long ago, and he lost his battle with cancer. Now, the reason I want to talk about Darren Daulton is because I've seen on Twitter since, it was been announced that, he lost his battle, many Philly fans that came out of woodwork and wanted to pay their respects to Darren Daulton. There's a number of people I've seen that really told it how it is about Darren Daulton, about how the type of person he was. And every once in a while, of course, I've saw some people on Twitter, try to take the opportunity of somebody passing, which is pretty disrespectful, take the opportunity of somebody passing and trying to either make a joke about it or actually just slander the guy. You know what I mean? And that's absolutely ridiculous. I mean, that's something you shouldn't be doing. You know what I mean? All in the love of sports because they were rivals or whatever. I don't want to hear that, man. It's not even cool. You know what I mean? It's just not. There's a standard that we have to hold. At one point. And for those who don't remember when Eagles and Cowboys fans. This is a good example. Eagles and Cowboys fans were going at each other, and that guy in that airplane when he crashed and died, Eagles and Cowboys fans came together and was like, oh no, this is a horrible thing. You know what I mean? So there's a difference between having that fan rivalry and then realizing, real life sets in. It's like, okay, we got to put this aside. You know what I mean? And do something about this, or we have to help each other out. So I want to talk about Darren Daulton due to the fact that, like I said, a lot of people on Twitter, a lot of Phillies fans, they talked about rest in peace, gave their thing, their respects. But I don't think that there's that many people who actually met Darren Daulton or talked to Darren Daulton. And for those who don't know what I'm talking about, for those who do not remember, a couple years ago, Darren Daulton and myself actually had a talk in the studio with when I was in 97.5. Now this is where it gets interesting because for those, I don't know if you saw the Phillies tribute to Darren Daulton over the weekend and how all the people, everyone he met when it comes to athletes and commentators and journalists, sports journalists and everything, how they talked about Darren Daulton, how happy-go-lucky he was. Mike Schmidt said it best on the podium when he talked about how Darren Daulton was one of those type of guys who would hug you and those type of things. And he's so happy-go-lucky. And here's the thing. They're not lying. They're not at all. All right? When I met Darren Daulton in the studio, I remember I was like, hey, how you doing? Philly's great. How you doing? And he was like, nah, bring it in. You know what I mean? And that's how he was. He was very welcoming. He was very warm. He was very generous. Talking to Darren Daulton, I talked to him for about 10, 15 minutes. Very warm, very welcoming. Gave me some good advice about, about this, sports thing, and it's interesting to hear, a legend take his time and talk to people. Like seriously, when I met him, he was like, oh, you're the guy I heard about. And I'm like, wait a minute, Darren Daulton knows me? He's heard about me. It's one of those things. But giving advice on how to do things and actually sitting and watching him work in the studio on how he went about things. He had his chair, he had his little board, he had his technician over there, he had his little pad and stuff that he could talk so when the callers come in, he knows how to do things. He has his stats backed up and everything. It's very interesting to see how he worked and how much he loved his work, how much he loved baseball, not to mention how much he loved people. And it's one of those things where when you hear, you always hear stories, about when, athletes pass on, anyone passes on, and everyone says, oh, he was a good guy. He was always a good guy. He was a perfect angel. You know what I mean? You always hear that from people. But to witness it, you know what I mean? Like I said, don't know him from a can of paint. You know what I mean? And he just comes in, and he's very, just bring it in. He wants to give me a hug and everything. And he was so close of trying to show me some stuff. In that small amount of time, he took his time out to show me so much stuff. And it was like, wow. Like, this guy, he cares, you know what I mean? He gives a damn, you know what I mean, about the people that he talks about, or the people that he sees has potential and could be something bigger, you know what I mean? And I really like that about Darren Daulton. And it's sad to hear that, he has passed on because his personality, I feel, was bigger, was larger than his career. And I know some people are going to say that's wrong to say because he was a great player. But when you talk to a guy like that and the impact automatically, it shows right then and there. You know what I mean? He wears it on his sleeve. And it's just very interesting to see that, for once, you know what I mean, that, when someone is actually saying, well, this guy, this is how he was as a person, and then you see it actually happen, you experience it. And that's what it is. It's not just a story, it's an experience. And it's really sad to see him go. I mean, we saw what was going on with him throughout the years. I mean, he was he got diagnosed with cancer. Then we heard he beat cancer, and then I guess he came back. I don't know, because we didn't really hear much afterwards. You know what I mean? And it was really interesting to see how he looked like. You know what I mean? He was real tan and had no hair and all this type of stuff. And it was like, but he beat cancer for last we heard at one point. So it's really sad to see that Darren Daulton has passed on. Like I said, for the short amount of time that I met him, like I said, he spent a good amount of time with me to show me the things that he did. You know what I mean? He didn't have to do that. He could have been very standoff about it. You know what I mean? They could have, Matt Hagan at the time was like, this. He didn't even have to tell Darren Daulton, hey, show Event the ropes, show him what's this and this and this. He didn't have to do that. All he did was introduce me to him. And Darren was like, oh, no, come on in. I want to show you this. I want to show you this. I want to show you that. I want to show you that. And that's how he was. He was just very happy of what he did. He was very kind about what he did, and he wanted to just pass on, I guess, that knowledge to other people. So it's I don't know. It's very sad when you lose somebody who is like that as their personality as a human being, who's actually being positive in other people's lives, and it's just very sad to see happen. So thank you, Darren Daulton, for the opportunity, the honor of meeting you, and may you rest in peace, may you rest in power, and I won't forget what you've told me, what you showed me, because like I said, you didn't have to do that. You didn't have to. You went out of your way to do that. They didn't instruct you to do that. So I want to thank you for that. All right? Now let's move on. Let's move on to Eagles football, shall we? Let's move on. Oh, my God, Eagles football. Oh, my God. Okay, preseason game against the Packers. Now, look, I understand it is a preseason game. I get it, okay? But what I saw out there was absolutely atrocious. It was horrible, all right? The Packers pretty much was like, is there anyone on this field with us? And they just did whatever the hell they want. Don't get me wrong. The Eagles played pretty well the first quarter. By the first half, y'all saw on Twitter, by the first half, I was like, I'm done with this. I was absolutely annoyed by the unit that came in and tried to work. Because understand, the starters, they only played a very tiny bit, all right? I won't even say 1% of the game. I won't even say that, all right? We saw a flash of them, and we were like, okay, we'll see what comes from this. You know what I mean? That's what we did. And then everything else was just like, it almost felt like it was like watching Pop Warner football when it came to the Eagles. All right, not the Packers. No, because like I said, the Packers, they did whatever the hell they wanted to do. You know what I mean? They were just like, okay, this is what we're going to do, and we're going to execute it. So by the first half, I was frustrated. I was very frustrated by the first half. I understand preseason game. I get it, but you have to understand football is back. A lot of us are happy it's back. We're excited. So, like I said, if you haven't seen the numbers, just for the practices alone that the Eagles were putting on, the open practices, 36 plus thousand, something like that? Just there just to watch. Like, the city is happy about football being back. But now we have to talk about the problems that we're seeing. Because already, we saw that, Matthews have been traded. Now, look, Matthews is traded. Was he our best guy at the time? Yes, but we have different receivers. I do have a concern, though, about this due to the fact that, okay, you have these receivers, but they're not staying that long. All right? Now, if you'd have kept Matthews, I'd have been like, all right. You know what I mean? Because, like I said, 1 year deal, 2 year deals, or whatever. Okay. All right. They want to feel it out first, see how it, goes, and if it doesn't work, they can move on. But we still have a young core that we can somewhat, rely on. But now we don't have that. I mean, Matthews, don't get me wrong. I'm not putting everything and saying Matthews was the future. He was the only guy we had. But then when you look at, Aguilar, it's like, really? And they're trying to pipe him up now because they're like, yeah, in practice, he's doing so well in practice and people are clapping and everything, but he can't do it during the game. So what's the point? What's the point? We saw that last season. What's the point? So, as far as I'm concerned, I understand that we needed help in secondary. We talked about this during the draft, the night of the draft. We said, we need secondary. And I guess, Peterson was like, we good, fam, we good. Don't even worry about it. We got this under control. Then when that preseason game hit, he was like, oh, Howie, yeah, we going to need a secondary. That's what it felt like. It was like he saw what we saw, and we was just like, come on, man. Like, you know what I mean? And he was just like, yeah, we're going to have to do something about that. And Howie Roseman was like, well, we weren't actively shopping, Matthews. And I see a lot of Eagles fans saying that's absolute bull, and other people are saying I absolutely believe him. And I'm 50-50 on this. I am. I don't really believe that much that they were shopping him. But after they saw what they saw, they were like, we gotta make a move somewhere, man. And for what we heard, the Bills were interested. They came to the Eagles looking for Matthews, so they wanted him. And then we find out afterwards, it's been the worst week for Matthews. First practice, he gets injured. Like, he won't be playing against the Eagles now in preseason. Like, yeah, it's it's been a bad week for Matthews. And I've seen Eagles fans, they're posting pictures of when Matthews was there, and he was cheering, he smiles and everything, and then you see him at the airport going to Buffalo, and he's just death face. He's just upset, you can tell. So, yeah, I feel bad for Matthews. I do. I just don't understand how this receiver core is going to go. I think if the offense does good this season, maybe we can get some extensions. Maybe we can bring in some people. You know what I mean? I don't have a problem with that whatsoever. But I do have a concern that guys are going to just walk off. I do. I do have that concern, especially after, Matthews, everything he's done here. Granted, there's been times where he has dropped the ball in big situations, wide open, and we all freak out. You know what I mean? But he was, dare I say, the most consistent receiver we had on our team. So, yeah. I don't know. I mean, they brought in, was it, I forgot the other. He just got cut into his. Beckham. They brought in Beckham last season, and we thought he was going to be so great because of his size and stature and how he can do things. And he really didn't do anything. And then we saw what happened in training camp. So yeah, I don't know about the Eagles' offense right now. I really don't. I mean, there's a lot of question marks. We'll see what they do. I mean, I still believe that we got a solid pick in Blount, so I'm not worried about that. A solid acquisition, I should say, in Blount. So I'm okay with that. I do worry about our secondary. I understand you went and got you got some secondary for Matthews, but that's not the end all be all. You know what I mean? That guy coming in it's not going to be like, okay, we're going to stop everything now. That's not how it works. So I think the Eagles, Peterson and the front office, I think they have a lot of work to do when it comes to defense on their secondary. I expect more trades. I do. I expect either more trades or more cuts. I think it will be more trades. It's preseason right now, so we got to take this very delicately. You know what I mean? We can't expect too much, but then again, you want to see some quality. You know what I mean? Don't get me wrong. Like I said before, every preseason that comes, when the starters are out, everyone's fighting for a job. All right? So second, third, fourth, whatever, how many strings you got going in there, they're all fighting for a job to make the final roster. If not, they'll probably be redshirted or they'll be let go. That's usually how it works. So when I'm watching this game and the starters come out, and I'm sitting here saying, this is pathetic, these guys who are trying hard, I feel they're not trying hard enough. I watched this and was just like, what is going on? Granted, Foles didn't play. He's got some elbow problems, but apparently he's going to be practicing this week. He'll make it some time to play this week. We'll see. We'll see. But I wasn't very happy of what I saw from the Eagles. Okay? I wasn't very happy. And it didn't even feel like a preseason game as much as it felt like an over-glorified scrimmage. All right? And I say that due to the fact, and for those who have played football, there's a difference between scrimmage and in preseason football. There's a completely different, thing. So, I don't know. I'm not very happy with what I saw. I'm just not. Okay? It's just that simple. And I will stick with that. We will see what happens this week. I'll be watching again. And right now, I'm listen, not very happy. We'll see. I mean, you don't want the Stars to be out there too long because you're trying to avoid as many injuries as possible, which is understandable. So I don't expect Carson Wentz to go in there and play for a whole quarter. You know what I mean? For stuff like that. But there's things that need to be ironed out. And in order for them to be ironed out and have chemistry, those people need to play. And you need those guys to play, and not just in practice, okay? You need them to play in a real game where guys can be hit. Because I put it like this, you should know by now, when quarterbacks are out there in practice, they can't be hit, And the defense really can't go hard at them. You really need to see what's going on with your defensive side of the ball when it comes to pass rush and run stoppage. And you also need to find out what's going on the offensive side of the ball if your offensive lineman can protect you enough. You know what I mean? So we will see what happens there. You know what I mean? Other than that, we'll see what happens coming up. Anyways, I want to move on. I want to talk about more disappointment. That's right. So we're going to start with the Griffin Force flop of the week that's going to bring us into the disappointment, which is Chelsea. But first, let's talk about this because, yes, soccer fans or football fans, however you call it overseas, you get the Griffin Force flop of the week. Please tell me how this is okay.
Csak ember, szabadrugás. Lazovic. Azt a mindenit, mit vág le.
Come on! How are you a professional athlete and acting like this? Come on! What do you say to that? Other than, that's horrible. That has to be the worst flop I've seen in absolutely very long time. You've got to be kidding me. I mean, like I said, I do this every week. I haven't done it, I think, the past time I did the sports video. But I keep showing you these type of things, and that's absolutely horrible. You cannot flop around. You want to flopping like a fish? That is flopping like a fish. And I don't understand why players, when they're doing, granted, we know they're trying to sell it, but when you do something like that, they deserve to get a yellow card or even a red card if they're going to be that dramatic. It disrespects the sport so much. I don't understand how people can be okay with this. I don't understand how people can be fans of said player when that happens. If I saw something like that and I was wearing his jersey, I can't respect it. I can't. I'm sorry. I can't. That's absolutely ridiculous. Unreal. But speaking of unreal and absolutely ridiculous, like I said, I want to move on to the disappointment known as Chelsea in their game against Burnley. Let's talk about this. First off, let's get something straight here. Okay? Their games that they had before they decided to have their first game of the season, all right, they were getting washed. They went overseas in Asia and was getting washed, all right? And everyone was like, it's not that big of a deal, you know what I mean? It's just a friendly, you don't have to worry about it, not all the players are playing and all that. Yeah, okay. I get all the excuses. I do. But when you're playing against Burnley in the first game of the season, and you know as the defending champs, you know these teams, especially in the first game of the season, these teams are going to come out guns blazing. These teams are going to come harder at you because they want to knock you off the perch. You know this. So you have to come in here. You can't come in all relaxed and, don't worry, we the champs, we good, don't worry about... You can't do that. You can't do that. Those teams are looking for blood, okay? That's what's going on right now. They got to set the bar right now, all right? Regardless of what happens later down the year, they got to set the bar right now. You think that Burnley, after Burnley beat us, you thought Burnley was like, it's just a game, it's not that big of a deal. No! They fans was going crazy. You just beat the defending champs. Whoa, that's how they were. Because they're setting the bar. That's what it is. And it's absolutely ridiculous that your captain, we've talked about this before. All right, Cahill. Yeah, Gary Cahill. Red card, off the field. Your captain, look, let's get something straight here. Regardless if you feel he deserved it or not, I've said before, I've been saying for seasons, Cahill is wildly inconsistent, all right, when it comes to quality. I don't hate the guy, but that's the truth. One game, he could stink it up horribly, scoring your own team. All right? The next game, he'll play like a god. That's just how he is. He's wildly inconsistent. He just is. So you have to excuse me as the captain if I'm very suspect on the captain, because I've been calling out the captain for a number of seasons. Okay? So yeah, I have a problem with that. Now, of course, like I said, players are hurt, some people not playing, blah, 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 blah. That's not the point. You should be able to go in there and beat Burnley with what you got. But the fact that you got rid of a lot of players this season, you got rid of Costa. Okay? All right. It was just like, okay, scorer, but his attitude. But the thing is, they never said why. You know what I mean? Never really said. So, other than, we just won't need your services. Didn't say much after that. Now, granted, people who hate Costa can say, yeah, there's a reason why. This, and this. Yeah, you can say that because that's your proof. But we don't know what the front office is thinking. We don't know because they're not saying anything. They didn't tell us anything. So, again, other than we don't need your services this year. All right, whatever. Costa moved on, you know? You give Matic, you give him the Man U. What? Are you serious? Look, let's get... I think that hurt me more than anything. Not because Matic is just... I'm not saying he's a godlike player, but he does his job very well as an enforcer. That's what he does. You don't need him to play forward and go out there and try to score. No, what he does is solid. What also bothers me is the fact that he would want to go over there after Mourinho had said about him, or the team in general. When you were in Chelsea, Mourinho threw you under the bus with everyone else and called you a bunch of names and told the world exactly how to beat you. That's what he did. And then you go back to him? I have a problem with that. I do. I have a big problem with that. So, yeah. As far as I'm concerned, that was a bad move. All right? Chelsea right now is not looking very well. They're not. Now, granted, I know some people will say, but they came back. Burnley beat us 3-2. Chelsea came back in urgency. It wasn't because they were in control the entire time. Urgency kicked in, and they scored. They netted 2. That's what happened, okay? That's what it did. It was pretty much a feel-good moment for people. And, they had another chance. They can tie this game, and then time ran out. That's what pretty much happened. You have to understand that if they'd have played hard from the beginning, this wouldn't have been a problem, all right? It wouldn't have been. Burnley came in there with a purpose, and we went in there very lackadaisical. And I don't appreciate that for the first game of the season. I don't. So my hat's off to Burnley. They did what they needed to do. All right? But as a Chelsea fan, that was hard to watch. It was. And the thing is, during this time, because you have to understand I'm part of the Chelsea Blues, so here in Philadelphia. So they get together to the bar, to the pubs here, and they go, like, as a specific, they have one specific designated place, even though there's many here, but one specific designated place because they're actually contracted here. And we all go there. Y'all saw on Twitter when I was posting video, when I posted the video here on YouTube before about it when they won it all. That's where they go, and they all get together in that morning, and they drink and have fun, And they were texting me like, "Are you coming today? Are you coming today?" And I was like, "Oh, I'm busy. I can't come today." But they were texting me during the game, was like, "This is bull. I can't believe this is happening." And they're sending me pictures on how people are freaking out and how disappointed they are. And for me, it's kind of sad. It's almost like, damn, I'm happy I didn't go. But it's also like I feel bad for them because they spent their time going, and the team performed like this. Really? Okay. So, Chelsea has a lot of work to do. But, let's look at the standings. The top 10, I'm going to say top 10 standings. Alright? Maybe top 12. I don't know. We'll see what I pull up. Alright? But, let's look at the standings on who's in first. And, dare I say, I'm a little upset to see who's in first. Yeah. Top 10 standings. You see it, right? Man U. Yeah. They're in first. But then again, if you look at that record for all of them, there's like 8 teams that are tied for first because they have the points. And Burnley's up there too. Chelsea, I believe, is in 14th place right now because they lost. Yeah, 14th. But of course, first game of the season, that can be changed. It's not a problem. All this stuff will be changed in the future. Dare I say the deck will be shuffled again. But the fact is, when you see that and you're just like, especially my rivalry, Man U, is just. And speaking of Man U, I need to talk about this because I talked with Man U fans not too long ago, and since they got these new acquisitions, they're talking about pushing to knock us off the perch. And mind you, they finished 6th last year, so they're talking about they're going for it all. They're not even thinking about top 3 or top 4. They're talking about going for it all or nothing. So here's the thing, all right? You still got teams like Manchester City. We know what happened with Manchester City. We know what happens with Liverpool. Like, these are teams that are still rivalries, though. Arsenal. Dare I say Arsenal? Arsenal. I usually just go top 4, you know what I mean? Those are usually your top 4, top 5. But after talking to some of you Man U fans, you're already denouncing Tottenham is not going to be a factor this year, all right? Because, they finished 2nd place last season, I should say. And, you're saying they're not going to be a factor this year because the money that they are spending isn't going to the players. That's right. It's going to this new stadium that they're building, this new entertainment complex that they're building, and that's going to take away from everything else. So you guys started sending me pictures of what it actually looks like, the actual construction of the places. Now, I do have some questions about this due to the fact that I can understand that the money is being pulled. What you're telling me is that the money is being pulled in so many different directions that they're not going to be able to fund the actual, team. So people won't come to see the team, even though they're promoting this new entertainment complex, this new stadium and new entertainment complex as the best stadium that you want to be at. I mean, you guys were telling me that they're going to have USB chargers in the actual fan seats now, so they can charge their phones and everything and stuff like that. So they're going to have a state-of-the-art stadium. And but the question is, who's going to go? Because now you're trying to figure out whether the team is going to be worth anything going, or are they trying to pull away from that from the overall EPL type style and say, well, every type of big event that comes, we can host it here and try to draw revenue that way. Also, I have a question is, what's the backing like for this? Are they doing this all on their own, or do they have some type of sponsored work, or is someone helping them with this payment, this the bills for this? Because it's going to be a huge bill as far as I'm concerned. You won't see any probably any type of revenue back for what? Once it's built, about 4 years maybe? It'll take about 4 years to get back into probably even. So I'm wondering who's going to spend the money just to go to that stadium to support their team. I mean, and don't get me wrong. I understand that a lot of people are probably going to say right now, but Chelsea, they're building a stadium too. But we actually win titles. So there's a difference. You know what I mean? Like when you're a champion, you can possibly get away with that. And for those who are local here in Philadelphia, you know that Phillies, when we won the World Series, ticket sales went up. All this stuff went up. Like all these things because the popularity had went up. So you know that there's a difference. You can take advantage of that. So those number of years when we were extremely competitive, where we went back to the World Series and lost in the second one, but then we got the NLCS or whatever. We had a good 4 or 5 year run where that team was built to win the championship, and it just came up short. But you saw the merchandise sales went up, the ticket sales went up, all these type of things went up when it came to the Phillies. So the question is, what's going to happen with Tottenham? Because if they're not winning anything, will the sales still be up? Will the merchandise still be up? I mean, you're going to have your diehard fans, but will it draw in new fans is the question. Or will it be almost like, and dare I compare it to NFL, with the Dallas Cowboys, which is when Jerry Jones decided to build that state-of-the-art stadium, Dallas Cowboys Stadium, and then it was like, wait a minute, we're having some problems. We need to bring on someone else. And they changed the name of the stadium and all this type of stuff. You need to have some backers. So I'm wondering, is it going to fall into that type of notion? Or is Tottenham really going to foot the bill on their own in this? I mean, for what you're telling me, this is going to hurt the team a lot. This is what Man U fans tell me. Like I said, if anyone has any information on this, please let me know so that I can speak about this some more, because I'm actually pretty intrigued to see where they're going to go with this. You finished second last season, and now what? You have this stadium. Granted, you had the plans for this stadium for a while, because it takes a while to get plans together. So I don't know if you had your money put aside for that or not. But for what everyone's saying, that you're not going to be a factor this season because the money is not going where it needs to be. And I'm wondering if that's going to be the case, because as we know, the top 4 or 5 teams, they spend a lot of money, to keep, to stay in the top 4 or 5, which is why everyone loved the fact that Leicester City, the one season was down in the dumps and then just came back out of nowhere, because they didn't spend a ton of money. You know what I mean? They just did it with heart. And then afterwards, after they won, they won their title, what happened? Players started getting bought off. Hell, even Chelsea bought a couple players. So it goes to show you that it's just one of those things. So you need money to compete in the EPL. You just do. And I hate to say that, because I would rather see players play with heart, teams play with heart. But you have these teams that just barely hang on, and they just teeter down at the bottom before relegation. And I mean, as a fan, and if you're a fan of those teams, I feel bad for you, because every season it's the same thing over and over and over, and it makes you upset, it makes you frustrated, and I can understand that. Who the hell wants to watch a team that's who's on the cusp of getting relegated every single season? That's absolutely horrible. That's a bad feeling. You know what I mean? Not to mention, who's going to go watch them, other than diehard fans, just to have their heart broken, or just to go there to rally or protest. I mean, we see it all the time in the stands. They're holding up the flags, they're holding up the banners and all, fire such and such, and we see it all the time because fans are upset. You know what I mean? You have fans who have tattoos of this, that they live this stuff, and for the team to just do that bad consistently every season, yeah, I can understand why they're mad. I understand that. So the question is, will they lose revenue? You know what I mean? Merchandise sales, tickets. There's a big deal about that. So like I said, it brings into question exactly what's going on with Tottenham. It just does. It really does. Anyways, before I move on, I want to talk about one other thing in the EPL that I've noticed, and they're talking about bringing over this new rule. I don't know what's going on with the PK style finishes. I don't know how far this is going to go. I mean, this is what we've heard so far here in America. So if our information is wrong, please let me know about the PK style of bringing, and as we saw in the first game of the season, okay, there's time, but I put it like this: if it they give you the extra minutes for, dare I say, extra time, overtime, are they going to start finishing games with a PK instead of a draw? You know what I mean? So that both teams just get their points and that's it. Will we actually see definitive wins and losses? Now, they've been talking about this here in America, but like I said, I don't know if it's true. So those, please, over across the pond, let me know what's going on, please. Let me know, okay? Because if it's not true, then I'll get back on here, the next time, no, it's not true. You know what I mean? I want to get the facts straight. So, I want to move on our last topic, because I really have some stuff to do today. For those who know, I do have to get ready and go for this meeting with the Cops vs. Community. I have to get ready and go for this meeting. So, I just want to talk about this real quick before I go. Boxing. This weekend, Terrence Crawford is fighting. He's fighting. So, it should be very interesting. I think he's going to railroad his opponent. I mean, Terrence Crawford's one of those type of fighters who when you watch him, he's an orthodox fighter. I've never seen an orthodox fighter get stronger as he turns southpaw to fight. Never seen it. You know what I mean? ever. So we'll see what happens with that. But I think Terence Crawford is going to take this. This is going to be a runaway fight for him. Of course, next week we have Conor McGregor and Floyd Mayweather. And for those who don't know, tickets still not sold out. Not sold out for the fight. I think everyone knows at this point that it's just a circus and that it doesn't matter. Y'all already know how I feel about Floyd and Conor. I did a video before about it, so I'm not going to waste your time talking about who I think is going to win again. But here's the thing. What we saw not too long ago between Paulie Malignaggi and Conor McGregor, look, let's get something straight here, okay? Conor McGregor, I understand he's upset for what Paulie has said to him, all right, or has said about him, about how he can't hang in boxing and anybody can beat him, and Paulie got to a point where he's like, the cameraman can beat him up. So I can understand the disrespect. I get it. And Conor, for those who did not see it, Conor was very upset about his remarks and wanted to bring him in to spar him. What he didn't tell Paulie was that it wasn't going to be a spar, that it was going to be an actual fight. Because there's a difference between sparring and fighting. Don't get me wrong. You get some heated spars. There's times where you see guys in that ring and they're sparring, and you're thinking they should charge admission for this, because this is not a sparring session. This is a fight, okay? But you have an out-of-shape Paulie Malignaggi, past his prime, who's going in there to spar. The reason he's going in there to spar is to help Conor, all right, learn things. Like, so if Paulie sets a trap, Conor knows how to get out of it. You know, things like that. But Conor decides, I'm just going to go full bore. I'm just going to beat on him. And that's what we saw. He beat on an out-of-shape Paulie Malignaggi who was not expecting an actual fight and who he thought was there to help him. Regardless of his comments, he was there to help him. When you bring in fighters to spar, they're there to help you get ready. So they're going to show you things. They're going to... Conor, I understand that you're upset. I understand as a man you have pride. So I understand that point where you're like, oh, he's talking, bring him in. I'm going to beat him up and show him that I can hang. I get that. But this guy is here to help you get ready for Floyd. That's what it is. Now, granted, I know you're going to say, there's other fighters who can get him, more better prepared. That's the reason he came in. It was because they're somewhat similar style. Somewhat. I use that very loosely. But you also understand, you could have brought in other people. You could have brought in Brunner and whatever. We saw Lomachenko not too long ago offer his services to Conor McGregor and say, hey, let's spar. It seems as though these days people aren't understanding what sparring means. Yes, you're going to get beat up. You are. You're going to get beat up. But it's a learning experience. Losing is learning. That's how it works. Okay? So if Paulie is sitting here telling on camera, because he did on Showtime, he was like, he said Conor's better than I thought he was. He was like, but he still has a lot to learn on how it is to set traps. He's like, I'm setting traps for him, and he's somewhat getting the hang of it. He was like, but Floyd, he was like, he's on a completely different level. By the time Floyd sets a trap, he's going to set another trap, then another trap, and Conor's not going to know how to react. So Paulie is there to help him learn the psychology of it, not just get in the ring and get his head beat in. There's a difference, okay? But of course, here goes Conor putting the videos out and Paulie and the pictures, and Paulie's like, "Can you please remove those because you're catching me in a vulnerable state." I guess you can say that. He's out of shape. He's past his prime, and you're coming in there as some loose cannon coming in there and just beating on him, and it makes him look bad because, of course, his reputation on how he is with Showtime, and of course his legacy as a champion as well. You're tarnishing it. And I know some of you can say, well, Paulie shouldn't open his mouth. That's where I get to the point where I say, you have a point. Like I said, I can understand why Conor's upset. But you got to think long term. You have to, especially when you're getting ready for this fight. You have to. So, as far as I'm concerned, we don't know what's going on. I mean, we just heard not too long ago that Brandon Rios knocked out Conor McGregor. Vargas said, he went on camera and said that Rios knocked out McGregor. Rios said, I never met McGregor. So we don't know if Rios is lying just to keep in good graces, or Vargas is lying. We don't know. There's so many stories that is going around about boxers and sparring Conor McGregor, and the things that we're seeing now on camera, what Conor is doing, the way he's getting ready for these fights. You can't lie to me. You can't tell me that he's not doing that as an illusion. No, you can't tell me he's not. You can't. So as far as I'm concerned, I feel as though, like I said, when you look at Conor the way he fights in the UFC, of course, without takedowns, you just look at strikes. And then you look at the way he's hitting heavy bag, or the way he's moving, just for boxing. Completely two different things. Watch his style in the UFC, which is an awkward style to begin with because he's so long. But look at how technical he is when he strikes, as opposed to what you're seeing, in UFC. Sparring, if you saw, he got over top of Paulie and was doing this, and punching him in the head like, really? Really? He's going to press Floyd. But Floyd is used to being pressed because we saw it with Maidana. So we'll see what happens. But I just feel as though Conor, I can understand why he's frustrated. I can understand why he did what he did. But I also can say, bruh, you was wrong at one point. You can't do that. So when guys coming in to teach you some things, shut up and learn. You know what I mean? I understand you're a champion. I understand. You have to understand. Again, it needs to be noted. When you are getting ready for a fight, your confidence has to be damn near egotism. When you're getting ready to walk in that ring, you better be ready to be a bulldog. You have to be able to control the ring. If you go in there with even a second thought of hesitation that you can't do it, you've already beaten yourself. It's something that you can't do. So I understand why a lot of fighters, not just Conor, act the way they do. You know what I mean? I understand that. It's full of confidence. Sometimes fighters may not have the confidence and they have to talk it up, to convince themselves. Sometimes it happens. But you have to understand that Conor he's so full sail right now that you can't tell him anything. And I think that's going to be the problem right now. They're already talking about there will not be a rematch to this fight. They're already talking about it. There will not. But there's also talk right now that Conor McGregor wants to actually have a real fight with Paulie Malignaggi. So there's so many stories. There just is. There just is. I don't know. And now was it? Conor saying he's not impressed by Golovkin and Canelo? Golovkin and Canelo could beat Conor. Sorry, but they can. In the boxing, they can. That's the fight you should be really looking forward to. That's the fight. You know what I mean? But I would love to see Lomachenko get in there and see if he would spar Conor, if Conor takes him up on his, on his challenge, on his offer. Anyways, I gotta get ready to go. Like I said, I gotta go do this basketball thing, and I will find out. Like I said, I'll shoot a video, put it on Twitter like I did the other ones, and then later, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna, once things start really getting good, I'm going to compile them all together and put them on, on YouTube. But for those who follow me on Twitter, you already see what I'm doing, and I'll just do another video, on Twitter as well, after the meeting to see what's going on. Anyways, I will talk to y'all later. Y'all be safe. Until next time, I'm out.